There we are. And we will be live on the internet. Amazing how that works. Hello, anyone who's there live. There's 3 there, but I think one's me and one's random. So, and I need to mute it, otherwise you'll all hear us twice. There you go. So good evening, everybody. You've got 3 of us. The feed only shows 2, but I didn't know Sparkle was joining. And he doesn't show us his video anyway, so I've left it as it is rather than change it at the last minute. But you've got me and Random and Sparkle. Scott is working. Someone's got to keep the country going, I guess. And it's Scott today. Sparkle's been lay on a sun lounger all afternoon, just drinking and doing nothing.
Yeah. Woo. Yeah.
So let's get cracking. What we've been up to. We're not a huge amount of news items, so there may be some blither blather. Hopefully not too many awkward silences, so it doesn't need too much editing, because it is the last day of the month. The month quarters up and quarters out, because show should be out today, and it clearly won't be. I'm still waiting for Hardware Flashback, so it will be out over the weekend, hopefully before Monday anyway. So, and hopefully a nice quick edit on this one. So, since we last spoke, podcast-wise, I'm currently 3D printing a new microphone boom, which, because at the moment they come down from above. I've got one here, and I've got one over here as well, in case I need a second one. But they're right in front of my face. So I'm printing a sort of desk clamp boom mic, which will come up from underneath. So I'm in the middle of printing it. It's going to take about a week to do all the bits. So that's on the go. I've been considering swapping back to the old mixing desk, which is much bigger and much better than the one I'm currently using. But if you remember a few months ago, we were having problems with, after about 20 minutes, the recording going dead. And we had to reboot and all of that. It happened a few times, and I thought it was the desk. So I had a technician service the old desk. He replaced a few pots, and he cleaned all the contacts up and all the sliders and everything. And then it happened again a couple of months ago, and I've figured out it was the ground loop. I have a ground loop between the machine that picks up the other half of the conversation. So Sparkle and Random and Scott all come to me through the same PC, and I had a ground loop on that to take out any buzz before it hits the desk. And I think that had died, and that was killing it. So now that we've maybe solved that problem, I might go back to the bigger, better desk. But we'll try this for a couple of months and just make sure that it doesn't go quiet after 20 minutes. And I might do that at some point. Books-wise, not talked about books for quite a while. I do read a hell of a lot. In doing some non-fiction at the moment. A reasonably old one, The Real Anthony Fauci. I've been reading that. Finished that a week or so ago. Really interesting book. It's a long book. And, lots of references, and at the end of each chapter, all the sources and everything. It's a proper, real, well-researched book. Very interesting reading. You should check that out if you can. And I've just started An Inconvenient Death, which is about Dr. David Kelly, who was, in the 90s, just before the Gulf War, I think he might have been a UN inspector, but he was inspecting Iraq on our behalf, trying to find weapons of mass destruction, and said, nah, it's fine, there aren't any. And that's not what Tony Blair and George W. Bush wanted to hear, so he ended up dead in the woods under suspicious circumstances. So, fascinating book. It's a fascinating case. Just search Dr. David Kelly and have a read about it. Like he slashed his wrists with a butter knife, and there's about a pint of blood on the floor where his body was, and they say he bled out and all sorts of stuff. It's crazy. But he predicted it. He said, because I've said this now, I'll probably be found dead in the woods or something. And within days he was. So, interesting story, interesting book. Movies-wise, I spoke to Scott about this offline. He has seen the film. We were talking about his motorbikes and his Indian that he's had some trouble with. There's a movie, The World's Fastest Indian, and it is about Indian motorbikes. It's an Anthony Hopkins film. It's a true story about a New Zealander who broke some world land speed records on an Indian motorcycle back in the 60s. Good film, definitely well worth a watch. I thought a couple of weeks ago that I would catch up with the Dungeons and Dragons movie. The last one that came out is probably 2, maybe even 3 years old at this point. But I thought, I'll watch the first one before it, and because I've watched the first one before, kind of liked it. So, and then I figured out there's actually 4 other things. So I watched the first one, didn't like it as much as I did the first time, and I've not gone back to the others yet. So none of them get great reviews, really, but I did watch the trailer of the most recent one, and it did look worth a watch, so I will get to it at some point. And watched a fairly old movie last night, Lawless, which is Shia LaBeouf, Tom Hardy, a true story about bootleggers and the battle they have with local police and stuff. So quite violent, but decent movie. TV shows wise, watched 2 seasons of one a couple of years old now called The Rig. It was based on an oil rig and some shit starts to go down. It started off all right and then it just went a bit stupid. So have you seen it, Random?
Yeah, we watched it the first series a couple of years ago now, and then recently watched the second series.
Yeah, it just went weird. The second series not great, but yeah.
Second series was just a bit of a non-starter.
Yeah,
really.
We have just finished a great series though. It's on Netflix called The Diplomat. Netflix. Can't speak tonight. The Diplomat. Loosely sort of based on real scenarios and what have you. It's a US ambassador comes over to London, and it's about her and the shenanigans and politics and dealing with our Prime Minister and their President and all of that. So that's definitely worth a watch. 2 seasons of that. But like the start of season 2, it's like a commercial break from the end of season 1 to the start of season 2. It literally rolls into the same scene. Crazy how they carried it over so exactly. But yeah, good series. I don't know if I mentioned this before. We watched Shrinking, season 2 of that. Season 2 of Bad Sisters. Watched a little 4-parter, a true story based on a true story. The Landscapers, about a couple in the UK, and they find some dead bodies in their back garden. That was worth a watch, but then the last episode gets a bit trippy. It's weird how it just sort of, because she starts going a bit mental, the woman, and it's like it starts showing her visions and how she's seeing the world, and it just gets a bit trippy. We've gone back to My Name is Earl. I've seen them all years ago. Paul has never seen it, so we're going back through that. It's just aged so well. It's a great show. I just love Randy on there. He's such a good character. Great series. And I started Dark on Netflix, which gets great reviews. I'm only a couple of episodes in, so really just setting the scene at the moment.
I really like that. It's weird because it was originally done in German, so
yeah, the mouths are out of sync.
Yeah, the mouths are out of sync, but it's good. I feel like it goes on maybe 1 season too long or something.
Mm-hmm.
Or like a couple episodes too long. They drag out some of it, but let me know when you finish it and let's chop it up about that. I really enjoyed that one.
We started that probably sometime in January, but got to sort of halfway through season 2, and then it's just Amber had loads of shit going on, so it was just she couldn't sort of keep all the different time zones in her head and
no spoilers.
So we've just then ended up we've gone back to Dexter at the moment. Started watching that again after watching what was the most recent one. Not Innocent Sin was the new series they did.
Original Sin
that we watched. Original Sin, yeah.
That's the one where he's a kid, isn't it? Or
yeah.
So,
rather than New Blood, which was the one with his kid that was.
Yeah, I've not
after
watched
the main series.
I watched where they brought the original one back, I watched the season of that. I've not watched the one with the kid.
The one with the kid's good.
Right, okay.
If anything, just for young Masuka.
Games wise, a ton of stuff last month that I rattled through. Not too much this month. Been down to the board game club a couple of times, playing Magic the Gathering and what have you. And I was watching a YouTube video the other day. A group of people. There's loads of YouTube channels where they play Magic, and there was a guy on there called Matthew Mercer playing, and they said he's a voiceover artist. I thought, I know that name. And he was interviewed on this show, probably in year 1 of this show. And he's the guy, just before you get to the end of the show and you hear the guy say, they're legally obligated to let you know they're sexual offenders. That's him who did that voiceover. So I'd never seen him before. I'd only heard his voice. I think SoCal and Scott interviewed him at, or maybe just Scott at MagFest, something like that. So, yeah, just odd to put a face to a name. And that is about it. I discussed a couple of horror films last month. I know Sparkle's a big fan. He wasn't here when I did it. I went back and watched the original Nosferatu and then watched the new version. Have you seen either of them?
Yeah, obviously the original, but the new one, I think I just saw something that came out on Peacock or something, which we do have. So probably we were just discussing about having like maybe a horror movie night tonight. So might check that out. How's the pacing on it?
A little slow, but it's fairly faithful to the original. And if you know the original, like I watched them almost back to back, like a couple of days apart, and so you'll see lots of nuances and nods to the original. But yeah, a little slow. It's over 2 hours long. Maybe doesn't need to be. But yeah, I think it's worth a watch. But I do love the original. So,
what is the other one that he did?
There was
The
one,
Lighthouse. The same director did The Lighthouse? Have you seen that?
I have. I didn't like it. Random did.
Yeah, I really like The Lighthouse.
I liked it, but it was only because like I was prepared for a slow sort of art. Like I was like, I wanna watch an art house film today, and I'm ready for something slow. I don't know if I'm like ready for a slow movie tonight right now, so that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I knew going into The Lighthouse what it would be like because I'd read reviews like it was. I think it was shot in 4:3 on a camera that's it's got a narrow angle. It's zoomed in to add to the feeling of claustrophobia and that kind of add to the tension of the film. And so I knew all of that going in. I didn't expect a blockbuster, but it just wasn't for me, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
I think that is about it for me.
I'll jump in. Quick, should be pretty quick. So yeah, mentioned the dark stuff. Film-wise, watched Escape from Alcatraz, which I don't remember watching. I might have done at some point, but Amber decided randomly she wanted to watch it one evening. That's still very, very good film. Was there any other films? I don't think so.
Just while you're on
Gaming-wise.
Clint Eastwood, we were talking at work about westerns, and we sat and watched the scene from, is it A Few Dollars More? For A Few Dollars More? Where they got like the music box and they play in and wait until it finishes. And it's just that scene, it's about 10 minutes long, they're all just stood in this circle while this music box is playing, waiting to draw. It's a fantastic scene, iconic scene.
Cool. Yeah, a couple of years ago, I was like, I've never really sort of watched westerns, at an age where I could properly sort of like try and appreciate what I'm watching, and meant to sort of go through a load, but never did really. Like classic westerns. I mean, I've obviously watched modern westerns. Gaming wise, because I missed last news because I was out in the remote Scottish wilds, receiving very noisy alarms on our phones, saying that we're all going to die tomorrow in a big storm. To which we went, right, what's the best way to do? We had another place we could go to, about an hour and a half away, which was also in the red zone, but at least we could get into a real building. And so we went, right, should we go now? It's not. They're not going to mind if we turn up a bit late. You know, we can phone them once we get some signal. And then I turned around and I just looked at my mate and I was just like, well, wait a minute, you've had 4 whiskeys and 2 joints, so I don't think we are going anywhere, are we? So yeah, we just had to decide to get up very early in the morning and try and sort of race the winds home, well, back to this place. A couple of tree branches nearly fell on both the 2 cars we had, but we got away with it. But it did then dick up our plan of the little pop-up nightclub in the stately home, because the tenants before us left in a hurry because they didn't want to get stranded. The place was a shit tip apparently because of that, but they couldn't get the cleaners in because of the storm, and then they lost the power as well to the building and didn't know when it was going to get restored, so that all got knocked on the head. And instead we all sat and watched a lot of Aim in the Van, for unknown reasons. Well, we watched a couple of random episodes while we were in the bothy, because it was just happened to be something I'd pulled off YouTube to watch there. And the two of them, well, one of them especially, was just obsessed with it. Just sort of, there was a lot of questions we had about motivations and what was happening and all sorts of shit. So we sort of had plenty of hours to kill. Went back to the sort of the beginning of the channel and started watching through, and yeah, that was quite interesting. Gaming wise, yeah, finished Indiana Jones. That would have been still last month, but didn't get to talk about it. Really enjoyed that.
How many hours?
It's kind of hard to say. Or I could tell you. I'll look that up while I'm talking.
On PC?
It's kind of... Yeah, I played it Game Pass. So yeah, it had... It's kind of like the best Indiana Jones stories we've had since, the originals, maybe even since the first 2. And then as terms of a game, is it not going to tell me my playtime? That's rubbish. Oh no, that's How Long to Beat. How Long to Beat says 15 hours for the main story.
Right.
And it was, yes, what was I saying? So it's, and a lot of money's been sort of put into it. You can clearly, there's like shot-for-shot recreations of Raiders as the intro. Oh God, I keep forgetting if it's Nolan North or Troy Baker, but whichever one it is, like, who's doing the voice. Really good Harrison Ford impression. And yeah, they've put a lot of care into like certain areas, but then it's not like God of War or something like that, where they've put loads of money in and just made this big, really protracted game that's like really badly paced in areas, and it's trying to sort of be quite serious. It's just like they've gone, right, what was fun in like a PS2, maybe like a budget 360 game, like let's make it like that, so you've got sort of 2 guards standing facing away from you. And like a lot of modern games, you'd like stealth kill one of them and the other guy would hear it and sort of be alerted and you'd have to deal with him. But with this, they're just purposefully absolutely thick as shit. And then you can pick up quite a lot of items to then use as sort of melee weapons and are used for the takedowns. So you just sort of pick up a guitar, smack it over one guy's head, and it just makes this big like twang, and like obviously a shower of wood goes everywhere. And the other guy next to him is just none the wiser. So you then just pick up the truncheon, the other guy dropped, and you just clonk him on the head. There's just lots and lots of fun ways, because there's guns in it, but they don't really factor that much. And it's just a lot of finding implements around the world and sneaking up and clocking people with them. So it's just generally a good fun game to play, which was nice. So that's sort of that main consoles. Handheld wise, I was playing through Final Fantasy Adventure for the Americans, but Mystic Quest they called it in the UK, which is not to be confused with Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, which is the SNES game, completely different franchise. But it is the first of the Legends of Mana series of games, so that was quite cool. It's got a bit of a Zelda-y feel, like Game Boy Zelda feel, but the dungeons are not sort of cleverly crafted and sort of puzzled. There's like mild puzzles in them, but it's more of a kind of feel of a dungeon crawl with like sort of the last few dungeons, there's like seems to be like 10 levels to them, and they're quite sprawling. But it's kind of a, it's the action feels very Zelda-y, but then you've got multiple different weapon types, and obviously you've got a load of RPG, sort of mild RPG leveling and things and magic sort of added on top of it. So yeah, quite enjoyable. A couple of bits are a bit obtuse in terms of how they expect you to find what to do next, for the sort of sake of not having like hours and hours and days of my life to just roam around the map and find these weird bits. I did obviously look up a couple of bit pointers, but yeah, enjoyed that, and then moved on. As my handheld gaming at the moment, I'm finally properly playing through the Gloomhaven digital version, because I didn't play any at Gloomhaven. I went straight into Frosthaven in terms of board games. So yeah, it's quite good, nice to go back to that. And then board gaming wise, yeah, play trying to get more Frosthaven in at the moment. So that's happening sort of every couple of weeks at the moment. So that's good. And then I've been playing Wingspan with Amber a lot, although we have been playing basically the Steam version on laptops because it's just far quicker than getting all the board out and clearing the table up and doing all the shit when you can get a computer to do it for you, and it's just much quicker and convenient, and just the same game. But yeah, it's a really cool game. I know it got a lot of traction sort of originally because of its art, but sort of it built up quite a following, it seemed, and yeah, more and more people were picking that up. So yeah, I think that's probably about it. Oh, and Scott's not here, but I'll tell the listeners. But yeah, after hearing his troubles with his motorcycles, both Harley and Indian, in the last show, I was changing my car, and I made the wise decision to buy another Alfa Romeo. So that's kind of my hold my beer. You've got problems with your motorbikes? I'm just gonna buy another Italian.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I've already had to 3D print something for it, but yeah, hopefully it should be reasonably reliable. This one, I think.
Should.
We'll see.
Yeah, I posted in our WhatsApp. Fool everyone into thinking you've got an Alpha by moving your number plate to one side and giving all your disposable income to a mechanic.
To which I replied, don't forget to buy 5 litres of oil every month and pour it liberally over your driveway.
All right, Sparkle.
Seems like it's been a while since I've been on the news. I don't think I was on last month, was I?
No.
Okay.
It was just me and Scott last month.
I don't think I was on the month before, even, maybe, not sure. But yeah, so let's see. Starting off with gaming, been playing some Starfield. We got like some kind of Xbox Pass or something like that, so I've been playing through that. And then emulating a couple games. Want to go back and play RoboCop, Ghosts and Goblins. So I've been kind of kicking around those two quite a bit. And then also this game Last of Us that's free to play on Steam. That's kind of I don't know how to even, or no, He Is Coming. Sorry, He Is Coming is the game that I play on Steam. I don't even know how to describe it. It's kind of like a dungeon game, or I don't know. It's I want you to play it, random. I think you'd really like it. It definitely has like a neo retro. It's like a neo retro game. It's like an old school looking game, and you kind of just like have to get combinations of armor and stuff like that, and then you can kind of fight enemies. Roll the dice kind of style, and then at the end, you have to go up against the Abomination. It's like the final boss of the game, and you just try to make it as many turns as you can and set your record for how many high score you can get. I don't think there's any beating the game, but it's interesting how you can get different combinations of weapons and things like that, and how they can kind of increase your stats. So something that I've been playing quite a bit of. Severance came out. I've been starting to watch a couple of those episodes. Um, I really like that show. It's a really nice mystery and corporate weirdness kind of mix. Um, Gives me vibes of sort of My Company. Um, and I've really been on, as far as watching, a YouTube binge the last couple months. You guys were talking about your cars and stuff like that. I've been busy working. I got a full size Bronco and been doing some work on that, wiring up lights, putting on push bar, Safari lights and stuff like that. Like it's wired for all kinds of stuff, and it has built-in auxiliary switches. I put 35-inch tires on it, and just been kind of doing some different upgrades to that, and really kind of enjoying that. So I've been watching a lot of these. Like, there's a place here called Harbor Freight. I don't know if you guys have it over there, but
No.
it's not like one of our big box tool shops, but they have like kind of, they always got a rap for having like really cheap, cheesy tools and stuff like that. But it's kind of like the old Sears, where you can actually, like, if you snap a tool or something, you just walk back in and hand it to them. They'll give you a new one. So you don't have to worry about like buying something on Amazon, then figuring out like where in the hell, how do you return it if you break it or something. And they had this like crazy deal going on. So those like giant mechanics tool chest kind of thing. So I finally ordered one of those, and just kind of like, I don't know, I'm just getting into the whole car thing quite a bit. Never really was, but since I've had this Bronco, it's just been fun to like, be hands-on with some projects and kind of see it all to come together. I've been staying active quite a bit. Been playing recreational volleyball myself, with some people doing indoor stuff like that. The weather's getting nice here, so we'll be able to be outside soon enough. I just got back from a trip in Savannah, Georgia. It's a really good time down there. The weather was warming up, so I had like immediate spring fever. Just like, really can't wait for the warm weather. I think it's going to be in the mid 60s here this weekend, which is great. And I've been doing a little bit of biohacking too, with some peptides, NAD plus and BPC 157. They help with like recovery. I had a really bad injury on the knee. My knee was all black and blue from playing volleyball, and one of these guys suggested I try out this BPC 157. Get it from a place, New Science Peptides. And you can really go down a rabbit hole with this stuff, but it's interesting. A lot of these things are made like not for human consumption, so it's like for research subjects only. So you'll go on these, like, you could join these forums and stuff, and people are like, my rat has had like mad gains at the gym and like can now double bench press like what they were doing, or like, I severely cut myself and I had this scar, and I like injected this stuff, and it's completely recovered. So it's crazy. I have a buddy that's like really big into this stuff, and he's 50 and he looks like he's like 35. He's been doing like all these different peptides and stuff, and like, I don't know, I guess there's like a whole like biohacking community and stuff like that. So some of you guys have like bad knees or something like that, you might want to look into some of these things. I guess Ozempic and some of those things, those are just peptides. There's semaglutide and tirzepatide or something like that. So there's a whole host of these different things. Like, there's ones that'll make you like super tan called Melanotan. Actually, I saw some video with these dudes in like the UK, and they took so much of it they almost look black. And it makes you extremely horny too. Like it makes your skin produce more melatonin. So just a little bit of sunlight will make you look like super tan. And I guess like the side effect of it is it does something in your brain where it makes you like kind of like a sexual predator too. So might want to
sounds like a great product.
yeah.
Goddamn sexual Tyrannosaurus.
And it gives you like 6-hour hard-on. So you could check that out, but that's interesting. And Actually, I made a big decision this past week to leave my company. So after 15 years, I've decided it's time to, they've been dangling me along for a long time. So decide like, hey, I'm gonna see what happens. I've turned down some opportunities in the past, but I've been the creative director at my company for the past 7. I've been there for 15 and just wasn't seeing enough career progression. And I'd always kind of circled this year on the calendar as like the year that I'm gonna start looking for what's next kind of thing. And my boss was like, "Well, we don't know." And another fellow, one of our division presidents was like, "Well, you could come work for me." And I was like, "All right, great. Like I can get more into some business development and stuff like that." But then it started changing, and he was like, "Well, but the chief marketing officer doesn't want to fully let you go, so you'll still do like 25% of your time with her, and then like 10% of your time you'll like help these guys over here with our commercial food that goes to like gas stations and stuff, doing brand development, and then like the 50% of the time you can." I'm like, man, this is complicated. It sounds like shared pet sitting or something. Like you watch the dog for a week and then we'll take them. And, so I was just like, I had another opportunity. So I'm going to be going into a different industry altogether. So I'm pretty excited about the opportunity. It's a level up as far as like the compensation and everything. It's a little scary. How long you guys been at your jobs?
About 11 years, this one.
11.
Just rolled over 10 years in December.
This career, about 20 years, but this particular location, about 11.
Okay, and I think Scott. I mean, Scott's been at his for a really long time.
Yeah.
And then he was kind of outsourced to the company he was working for as a client from his old company for quite some time. So, I mean, a lot of people, man, they're jumping jobs. Like I know some, my one buddy that was at Activision for a long time, and then he was at EA, and now he's, oh God, what is that Russian game that they're putting out?
Tetris.
No, that shooter. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Stalker.
No,
Oh, that's not Russian.
it's another one. It's like, I'll think of it later. But anyway, like he's developing stuff, and I know people in the games industry jump around, and a lot of my friends, it seems like every 3 or 4 years they're kind of moving around, and I've been there 15, and before that I was at a company for 5 years, but before that or between the two, I tried making a run at it, doing my own LLC for a while. And it was like okay. It was just like real feast and famine for the year. It started off really strong, and then um, kind of dipped, and then I got some more projects, and it worked out okay. But you know, this company came along and was like, all right, I'm going to take something solid with all the benefits and whatnot. So, but anyway, yeah, it's a little scary, man, leaving something that, you've done for 15 years. You're kind of like the smartest guy in the room, you're the best at what you do at the company kind of thing. And there's definitely a comfort there, but there's also just kind of time for some change. Like, there was no clear progress going on. So anyway, took the leap. So, if any of you have done that, maybe share that with us. As far as we should do something like some crazy top 10, like craziest shit you've done at work or something like that. Because I have
Top
some
10 wanks you've had at work.
Yeah, took a dump in the trash can or something. Like. But anyway, yeah. So that's my month. Let's hop into news.
Yeah, we can. You've got to be careful when you get to my age, chopping and changing jobs. I'm 55 this year. Summer of this year, I'll turn 55. So, you go changing companies too much, and that company has some problems. Not many people want to take on a 55-year-old when, I'm closer to the end of my career than the beginning.
Yeah, and see, like you're a decade older than me, so I always looked at it as like once I hit mid 40s, I gotta start finding something else because that window starts to close. Like I'm acutely aware of that because I think some people start looking at you like, we're gonna bring on this guy in his 50s. Like how much longer is he gonna be here? Like are we gonna,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So like now's kind of the time. I feel like I still have a couple year window. So if this doesn't pan out, anybody can kind of survive 2 years at like a really shitty place if they want to. So even if it's shit, like I get put in 2 years and still have enough window to kind of move around a little bit more if I needed to.
Yeah. You mentioned Georgia there. My middle daughter is going to be moving over to Atlanta.
Oh, she is taking it?
She is going possibly end of March. If not, it'll be April. So she's getting all the visa and everything sorted. The company's, is backing her, and they're organising a lot of the stuff. She's had to fill out this form like, well, why do we need you in the US to do this? Why can't we have an American do it? And so she's had to do all those forms and justifying that. So she's going to do initially a year. Depending how it goes, she may come back, she may stay. It's all up in the air at the moment. So she sold off a property over here. And she's, she's moving out over there to Atlanta. Going to be
Can
pretty.
she buy a house here? I think you can, right? If you wanted to.
She could do. She doesn't want to. There's a few people in her company, like Atlanta. All the people who work in that office, none of them are from Atlanta. So they all some of them share houses. Some of them, all of them rent. So she doesn't want to get something like that sorted until she's met people. She might, arrange a shared, apartment and then find out she hates the person. So she may do a hotel for a couple of weeks and then, figure out what's there, what area she wants to be in, all that, and then do a rental. So, yeah.
I knew a guy that was living in like some kind of weird, like polygamous, like polyamorous house in Atlanta. If she wants to move in there.
I might.
Yeah. Well, you can analyze
Random's
data,
like,
random. You can
I'm
go
in.
over there.
Random's in. I'm in.
Analyze data, was that?
That's it. Alrighty, let's get into some news then. Thank you to everyone who sent them this month. Not a huge amount, but we will cover them anyway. The last of the game centres. This one was from David Gyrick. This might have rolled over for a couple of months, actually. We had a ton a couple of months ago and didn't get through them all. This is a Kickstarter. It's a documentary about Japanese game centres, and it wasn't funded, unfortunately. They were looking for just under £25,000. Probably in yen, it looks Japanese. They didn't get there. They got about a quarter of that. So, unfortunately, you ain't going to be watching that.
Well, it looked like a photo book. It's a shame, I hadn't seen it until now. But I do like a good photo book, and obviously I like Japan.
I was assuming it was
Japanese
video because it's got a
arcades.
play button, but that'll be the Kickstarter video, won't it?
Yeah, it's a Kickstarter video, isn't it? But yeah, I'd quite like to have this book. Never mind.
You have
What
to
are
make
you
your
gonna
own.
do? One from Lord Neil. He says he hasn't sent anything for a while, so here is a nice video about the Super Game Boy. And it is indeed a nice video about the Super Game Boy, going through how the hardware was put together and then the various enhancements it would do, difference between the Super Game Boy 1 and 2. I'm sure there's something about it's got Space Invaders there, so it'll have things about how they did PCM sound and Donkey Kong. Because it wasn't just about color palettes and a fancy border. It did do quite a bit of interesting stuff, the Super Game Boy. So for those that don't know, that is 22 minutes of good information for you.
Well, I sent this one in last week, but looks like you guys left it for me, so that's good.
We did.
I said I am like an abused person that keeps going back to that abusive relationship and like getting hit, in black eyes, because I keep going back to Kickstarter for some reason, and I still haven't got the damn folding spoon.
No, I was hoping you were going to have some good news for us on that front.
No, they sent me an email though.
Oh, that's good.
Other
Other people have got the spoons.
Right. Yeah, like I even wrote
They're
them. I'm like,
advertising them.
Yeah.
I asked them for an update on shipping. Okay, I could actually read you what they wrote me back. I was like, "Hey, I see on social media and online that you're advertising the spoons for sale. For sale. Like I could buy them off your website now. So I don't understand why you haven't shipped the ones that I ordered 8 years ago." I'm like, "I don't care about color, nothing. I just want the spoon. Like, can you please ship it?" And then they wrote back, "We understand how you feel when you came across our store. We started the store in order to increase production so our costs go down on the Kickstarter backed project." Uh, and because they had a lack of funding to deliver the backers and no other options, they had to get the funds from the store now. And they're currently dispatching orders as fast as they can.
That's good of
And
them.
I should keep my fingers crossed because I should be able to get them before this upcoming Christmas.
Nice. So what year
Yeah.
did you back it?
Uh,
It's got to be
8
2
years
years
ago.
ago. 8?
8.
Oh yeah, it's longer than 2.
Yeah, no, 8 years ago.
Wow.
We faced certain issues regarding the batch that they currently received. So they didn't pass the quality control and the control check. So that whole batch is going to get scrapped. They've asked for a new production batch, which should be ready in the next 10 months. And they just simply can't offer the backers defective products. So hopefully you understand, and they will be dispatching orders as soon as possible. If I can update my address, so when the batch of spoons is ready, they will send that out. Whatever, I'm going to keep emailing, harassing them. But anyway, this other thing that I backed in the meantime, I backed a titanium pen from Big Idea Company. I bought a couple of their things. And then these things called Deuce Drops. If you ever wish that your throne time could smell like a field of daisies rather than a dumpster fire, why don't you get the Deuce Drops? So they're like Alka-Seltzer drops for poo. And you drop them into the toilet and then they fizz and it starts making everything smell great. So if you've ever when I go to the gym, for some reason, the gym bathroom is the worst. I feel like there's just dudes with Crohn's disease, shitting in there all the time. And sometimes you can't help it. You just all of a sudden you're like, ah, man, I worked out and I have to take a dump or something. So I'm looking forward to getting my my Deuce Drops so I can take those to the gym with me.
Nice. One here from David Gyrick. I should just say we've been joined in chat by a few people from down under. Some of them saying good morning when it's actually my evening. Sparkles afternoon, no doubt. Glenn Minette's in there. Felice Maggie's in there. Peter O'Brien is in there. Maybe a few more. Dave Lanky's in there. Hi, Dave Lanky.
Oh yeah.
Hiya. Dave Gyrick sent us this one. GOG, Good Old Games, as we know, fights for game preservation. Good Old Games has bolstered game preservation efforts by joining the European Game Archivist Organisation, saying it's a significant step in bridging the private sector with cultural organisations. So that's good, when they're probably promising never to delete any digital games that you've bought. But I do buy some stuff off GOG. It's DRM free. And you can download executables, and they'll also have updates to some of them. You just download them as executables. So I have bought a few things off there. I never pay a lot for them. In fact, Random sent us one in WhatsApp yesterday or the day before. Fear Platinum, was it? It was 79 pence. So I bought it, and I was looking on hours to complete, and it says 8. So it's less than 10 pence an hour for entertainment. So
I got a question here on some of these things. How would they know? Physical media. Good thing Scott's not here to get fired up. He was really fired up in the top 10
about mod chips.
Dude, he's gonna be mad for
he won't
next 3
forgive us
months.
for that.
Yeah,
not a
ever.
chance.
Wow. But hey, so
Triggered.
you have these good old games accounts. You got you know, like Steam and stuff like that. And if you think about it, I mean, essentially the game is infinite because it lives on, you know, the internet forever as long as it continues the service. Um, what's to like prevent you from passing your account to your kid or something like that? You know, like because I know Doge, like we got Doge here, and Elon Musk is like cleaning up our accounting, and you know they're finding people on Social Security here that are like 140 years old and shit like that. So I mean, would they be able to identify that your good old games account is like 200 years old and you couldn't possibly still be playing it?
I don't know. I guess you get away with a few years. I mean, what are they going to do? As long as you, let's say they make you reset your password every 5 years or whatever it is. As long as you've got access to that original email account, that's not a problem, I guess. I don't know.
There's already been cases gone to court, haven't there, for like people trying to leave like iTunes accounts in wills, and that's always got shot down and blocked. But you know, I've got accounts that and my mates have had. We've had accounts in the past where there's one account and like three, me, my mate, his brother, we're all logged in. We'll log into this Steam account and use it, and obviously we can't use it all together, but you could do that. We used to do it with PlayStation 3 and stuff like that. So I mean, yeah. So there's nothing to stop you from just giving your password and using your login details to your kids. Whether they'd look at it and just, I mean, can you really? Are they going to be around? Like 100 years from when Steam started.
Are your kids going to want to play your games?
20 odd years ago.
More to the point.
Are we not just going to be living in nuclear winter?
He's going to be dead from peptides. I won't worry about it.
But like, because it would have to be like, no one's going to be sitting there and being like, oh well, let's just clear out all. How are they going to know that there's loads of active accounts that are that old without getting into some problem where they start deactivating people's accounts who are legitimately like not dead yet and still playing?
Hey man,
some
you
shit on
disabled
Steam.
my account. I'm trying to play Tomb Raider. You son of a bitch.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought though. Yeah, if it does last that long. Yeah.
Oh, you're kidding me.
There he is.
I mean, like GOG's all right because like Mike said, you could just download all of the installers separately and make your own archive of them on your NAS, and then they don't need the service. You don't need your account at that point. Who knows?
We'll find out at some point.
Will it all be like academic? Because at that point, everyone will have like cracked them and ripped them, and they'll be online somewhere.
We're playing them on RetroPie.
Antstream, which is actually a better use for a better use for Antstream, because instead of sending like 300 kilobits per second for a game that's only 5 kilobits to download in its entirety. You'll at least be like, you don't want to be, you've got 100 gigs worth of Call of Duty. It makes sense to stream that, perhaps. But
Another from David Gyrick, Game Mags as History. It's an article on The Guardian. Awful establishment. But Scans for the Memories is the headline. Why old games magazines are a vital source of cultural history and nostalgia. It's an article for you to read through. They link to the video game history as well, with a video of theirs. But it's interesting. All the old magazine scans. I mean, I've downloaded some of them in the past, and they're like hundreds of meg. People scan them in at ridiculous resolutions.
Oh, yeah.
But I also saw a video of a device that Amazon used to scan a physical book into an ebook. and it's like this. So they hold this. It's a machine, and it holds the book open. And like if you imagine you're holding a book open, and your right thumb, if you sort of slide it slightly to the right, it'll release a page, and that page will open. Well, that's what this machine does. It's on a roller, and they sort of bend the book back, and this roller moves, and it releases a page, and they snap a picture. And then the roller moves again, and it releases a page, and they snap a picture. But it all happens really quick. It was fascinating to watch. I don't know if the video was sped up or what, but it was the timing of it is amazing. As the page flicks, it takes a picture of the next one and what have you. It was really good. And then I guess they'd have to use OCR to make when they're making an EPUB, so that if you change the zoom size and whatever, all the following pages fall into sync and what have you. So they'll use OCR on it afterwards and correct it. But great way to scan a book. It was a fascinating machine to watch.
Yeah, whereas I think there's a couple of sort of big groups that have got the magazine preservation down to a fine art, but I think they're still razor blading all the pages out and then like feeding them into a high-res scanner that as a form feeder on it, and it will just churn through them. But yeah, still a lot of effort to sort of do that, and then I think they bind them back together for the History Foundation to then put back on the shelves, sort of rebind them in some way. So yeah, speaking of that, so there's that article, and then later on, David Gyrick sent in the news. Surprised others hadn't, but the Video Game Foundation put a selection of the magazines that they've got archived available on the internet in a searchable format, and not in just sort of like Internet Archive's got a lot of them, but you have to sort of try and find forum posts about particular looking for a game. If you're looking for a specific game in a specific magazine, I've had to do this in the past. You've got to search for like forum posts and stuff where it's mentioned, and then go and find. So you're then going to the archive.org. You're trying to find like January 2023, or maybe issue 256 of a certain magazine. You've got to try and find it there. Then you've got to flick through it, hope it's scanned high enough res so that you can zoom in on the page and read it. Whereas this, all of the text is searchable and indexed, as you'd expect, and then you can just sort of go through and find articles and stuff. So yeah, kind of cool.
And in chat there, I'm going to show a video in a minute, so I'm just messing about with screens. In chat, Peter mentioned he had to download all his Kindle books this month and remove their DRM because Amazon. So if you buy a book on Kindle, you can get to it through your web page into your Amazon account and download it as a backup copy. You don't just have to download it on your Kindle, and they're stopping your ability to do that. So if you've got a load of books bought through Amazon, you've got until sometime in March, I think to download them. Was it? Okay. I thought it was March, but maybe. But yeah, people are going on using, some of them are using downloaders. They've got that many. But yeah, they're stopping you downloading an actual copy of your book. There are ways to source them, but yeah, pretty shitty move. This one I sent in, it was just, I couldn't stop watching it. I've called it just a dumb video. So let me paste the link in chat, but I will probably be able to play it through the stream. But it's just the sound at the end of it. It's crazy. I hope you can hear it. Let me try. If I go transition, and if I play that, you might be able to hear it. Is that coming through? I have no idea.
I can see a sandal.
You not hear the sound? I don't think you'll hear it in the call. Maybe the live viewers saw it. I don't know. But I've posted the link in chat anyway. It's just, I could not stop watching it. It's just crazy. It's a massive hole in the ground, and it's a Chinese man singing into it, and then there's someone down the hole, and he sings the next line, but then he drops something down the hole and it hits him, and he just says "ow" at the end of it. But the way Just click on it random and watch it. Just listen to it. It's mental. I could not stop watching it.
Oh dear.
No, there was no sound on the stream apparently.
Didn't look like it.
Maybe I needed to do something with OBS. But anyway, yeah. The link is there in chat. You can watch it. It's just the stupidest thing. But I was mesmerised by it. It's one of them things that just got under my skin. I couldn't stop watching it.
Got one from Carl Klitschke. This is Missile Command returning to arcades with a game called Missile Command Recharged by Alan One, whoever Alan One is. Apparently they held Major League Esports League World Championships, but it looks like, if you remember sort of the big Neo Geo cabinets, we had the massive screen, the two seats. This is like a massive version of that. Each player looks like they've got their own screen and controls, but then there's a huge screen behind them, I guess, for, if they're using this for competition and esports purposes, then you've got the audience can see what's happening on the big screen. So yeah, it looks to be competitive. Let's say, they don't know. They haven't got a proper size. They're just a 75-inch, maybe 85-inch. But yeah, so some sort of two-player competitive Missile Command, which could be quite good fun to try out if we get a chance at some point.
Whether
we'll have any chance of seeing that anywhere, I don't know.
Glenn Minette makes a good point when I was saying about Kindle books in March. He says it is March here.
Fair.
Remind me, Glenn, are you in Oz? Yeah, he says in Oz. Yeah, I thought he was. I can't remember who it is in New Zealand. We've got someone in New Zealand as well. Is that Peter O'Brien? Can't remember. Anyway, one from me. Dino Crisis 1 and 2 getting enhanced PC re-releases courtesy of the aforementioned GOG. I loved the first Dino Crisis when it came out. I'd played through all the Resident Evils by that time, and that was when that game mechanic and those tank controls were, current and not dated. And then it was basically Resident Evil with dinosaurs. I thought it was the shit.
I loved it.
Yeah. The second one, less so. It was more arcade-style-y, but still a good game. They are being remastered and will be on GOG. Does it? I don't suppose it's got pricing in there, has it?
Loads of people always say that the second one's loads better, but I've never managed to get into it. I tried at the time when it came out because one of my mates requested it as one of my rentals and Pirates sales to him. So obviously every time I did that with requests, I made a copy for myself. I couldn't get into it then. He loved it, and then I tried again a couple of years ago. Couldn't do it again. So I don't know. Maybe one day I'll get more than 30 minutes into it.
Yeah, I did complete them both at the time, but definitely did not enjoy the second one as much as the first. I think Sparkle's already enjoying movie night.
I'm
do
technically
one? Come on.
technically still at the job, and
all right. Yeah, but you're leaving. What are they going to do? Fire you?
Probably not. I don't think. Yeah,
and if they do, you'll still be there 10% of the time anyway. So.
Listen, I'll tell you what. I wrote I had 2 final letters to take to the office. My nice resignation. And my dad was a headhunter for a while, and he said look, you never burn a bridge. But if you're gonna burn a bridge, you might as well fucking nuke it with a planet cracker.
Yeah. What bridge?
Yeah. So oh man, maybe I'll post it, and you can add it to the show notes. The mean letter, which I didn't have the balls to actually turn in, but it was pretty good. Yeah, let me fire one of these up here. Let's see what is one that I want to do.
I was just watching the Chinese man with the sound on finally.
It's mad, isn't it?
That's great. Straight
Okay.
away got shared.
Well, we always want to do. It's yet another Doom port, and this time it's running on cable, which is pretty interesting. So David Gyrich sent this one in, and yeah, it's a video of us watching Doom playing on cable, which is great. Oh, he's on everything.
So I had questions about that. He's claiming that the code is running on an Apple Lightning to HDMI dongle, but is it? Is the processing in that? Or
Yeah,
because you
yeah.
can't see,
All
but you can't see where the cables are running. I mean, it could easily be faked. I don't
Well,
know.
I mean, could be, but yeah, there's a surprising amount of like compute power that's now
Right.
packaged into like Lightning and USB connectors, which is potentially worrying at some points because yeah, it's quite easy to make a cable that then just does a keylogger or pretends it's
Yeah.
a keyboard and all sorts of shit. The shenanigans. One from it's like UK Mike, yeah, I suppose. Nintendo loses trademark fight against Super Mario Supermarket. So this was a Costa Rican supermarket that was called Super Mario for I don't know how long, probably a long time. Named because the owner was called Don Jose Mario Alfaro Gonzalez, or Mario for short. Yeah, very short. And it's a supermarket, so he called it Super Mario. Trading for decades, apparently. Although it then says he first registered as a shop brand shortly after graduating from university in 2013, so it's only just over a decade, really. But yeah, Nintendo tried to sue him and failed. So that's nice for Nintendo's lawyers to actually fail.
Yeah, experience a
once.
loss.
Yeah.
So keeping it Super Mario, Lord Neil, who's joined us in chat, as well as a couple more recently, he sent a Super Mario 3D fan game. I wonder how long this one will stay about for. The video is still up. Let me mute that. There is a video of gameplay, and it's a guy who's made Super Mario World in 3D using Unreal Engine 5. So this first video apparently is a concept, but he is playing it, and there is also a making of video by the same guy, Bobby Ivar 2. So you can watch them at your leisure. Looks interesting. It looks pretty good, actually, to be honest. Some of the 3D Marios for me, and I guess for everyone, are a bit hit and miss. You know, the N64 version is a bit of a Marmite game, but one of my favourite games of all time was the 3DS one, Super Mario 3D Land, I think it was. One of the best games ever. Fantastic. And then I'm just not... I can't decide if I like the Switch ones or not. I'm still undecided. I've been playing... Is it Odyssey or is it the other one?
Odyssey, yeah.
Odyssey. I still can't decide if I like it. It's like every other level is good. It's crazy. So, but this does look interesting. It's older style graphics, but yeah, check out those videos.
I sent one in. My interest sparkle as well, which was M2 and Compile getting together to make a new shmup called Celeste, which unites the Zanak and the Aleste series. Compiles original games. So yeah, don't think we've got a date yet or any sort of plan, but that could be quite interesting because I don't know about you, but I always enjoyed those franchises.
So I don't, I use AI all the time, man. It's crazy, like what I can do with all these different AIs. How far off do you think we are? Because because AI can write code. I mean, it wrote a little Python script for me. It could do all this crazy shit. How long until you'll be able to just take some old files and just feed it like, here's Darius, and here's here's the files for R type, and here's something else, and I want you to make me kind of like a new game similar in the style of and shit like that, and it's just gonna make a completely new game.
Well, I don't think we had it sent in, but Microsoft earlier this week, I think it was, they said they were doing. They've been out doing like podcasts and various sort of press tours, just to sort of get everyone up to speed on what their plan is for this year. And in one of them,
Spencer.
It's Phil Spencer. Yeah, sorry. I was like, Phil Harrison? No, that's not it.
McCracken.
And I was like, Daddy Phil. I was like, no, that's just what we call him in front of our mate who works for Microsoft. He was saying that their plans for sort of preservation, because they stopped the backwards compatibility project that they were doing on Xbox Series consoles a couple of years ago now, because it got to a point where it wasn't worth fighting the licensing anymore for what was left. But he thinks so Ninja Theory have developed like an AI that generates, it's almost like concept art but for gameplay. So they fed it various games, and it can spit out a very low resolution and sort of weird looking video, but it's basically of a hero shooter like a Marvel Rivals or an Overwatch that it's come up with, and the idea is that they could use it for doing sort of concepting, quick prototyping like gameplay mechanics. But Phil then sort of saying, well, we're not far off. I think rather than trying to like emulate Blinx the Time Sweeper or remake it, AI can just re-envision it and just generate it for you on modern hardware, and do that rather than a human having to team having to put the work in. But I can't see that being anywhere close. Like none of my mates in the industry just don't see where that's happening.
And also Microsoft, was it this week or last week, came out with quantum computing in less than 10 years because of our chip. Like if anyone's going to invent that chip, it is not going to be Microsoft. But for me, the whole AI shit, I have this argument. It seems like recently, most days with a guy at work, he's like, "Oh, AI, it's amazing. It's going to take over the world. It's going to kill us all. It's a brilliant. No one's going to have a job." And I'm like, dude, nothing you have seen so far is AI. Computers are not thinking for themselves. They are still doing what they've been told to do. And if you don't tell them what to do, they won't know what to do. They are not thinking. And he keeps coming up with these examples, and I'm saying, but that's a computer program. It's following its instructions. And the example one of the examples I gave him, I've given him many, is like, let's say a guy in an Indian call center. You call him up because your internet's off and your router's playing up. So this guy in India knows nothing about you, nothing about the internet, nothing about your router, but he's got a set of instructions, and he'll ask you question 1. Based on the answer to question 1, he'll go to question 2 or question 7. And eventually he'll get to the bottom. He may or may not have solved your router problem. He's not thinking for himself. He can solve the problem, and that's what AI is doing. It's doing what it's told. Now, it's clever. I'm not, minimizing the fact that it's clever. What has improved massively are the input parsing and the LLM output. So the input parsing, think back to like a text adventure. You play an 80s text adventure and say, walk north and go through the door. It'll say, what? What are you talking about? I don't know what you mean. Just say north or N, and it knows what you mean. But now you can put a real lengthy request or question into an AI, and it can parse what you mean, and it knows what you're looking for. That's really clever. It can give you the answer in well-written prose that's got good punctuation, good grammar, and looks correct. It needs checking. You wouldn't submit it as an essay without reading through it, but it's very clever. Now, those two aspects of it are really good, but nothing about it that you're seeing at the moment is AI. You know, people, well, I'm generating art and it can do all this. Well, Photoshop's been able to do that for years. You know, you want to take a park bench out of a photograph, say, you know, and blend it with the grass behind it. Photoshop's been able to do that for a long time. That's very clever. It's not AI. And nothing I've seen so far is AI. Self-driving cars, very clever, but they're doing what they're programmed to do. But there's instances, particularly in LA, I think, or maybe San Francisco, 3 o'clock in the morning, there'll be a dozen of these cars trying to get out of a car park, and they're all stuck, all beeping at each other and waking everyone up because they're presented with a situation they don't know how to get out of, and they don't know what to do. They're not thinking for themselves. They are following a program.
Well, yeah, it's like, you know, with it's getting slightly more, because they're passing, like, what they're outputting, they do pass it through and sort of try and get more context on it, but they don't have any context of, like, you ask it to draw a fish, it doesn't actually know what a fish is and go, here, I've made a fish. No. It just knows that the probability is that if I put a yellow pixel here and a blue pixel here, that the probability I've learned is that from analysing pictures that people have said are
titled with fish. Yeah.
That these pixels will make something that probably will be a fish. I don't know.
But it might have six fingers.
Yeah. But and you know, there is a certain element of, like, then passing that image back into it and going, look at this, does it come, would I tag this as a fish? Like, does this match the fish stuff? And it's like, no, all right. Okay, I'll go again and try again. So, you know, there is an amount of, like, it doesn't know that you've asked it to do a poem, or like when we asked it to do a summary of the Calico Chameleon.
Yeah,
it doesn't know what a Calico Chameleon is. No. It doesn't know what the context of Calico followed by chameleon is. It just knows that probability-wise, if it puts this data together in this form, it will do it, and it could look through it again and then, you know, check that, I recognize this as a noun, a verb, a blah blah blah, and then the probability is that this sentence is correct and can sort of all need refining. But yeah, it doesn't know that it's written about the Calico Chameleon at all.
Yeah,
which is probably for the best.
Yeah. Sparkle, you were shaking your head while I was talking. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's probably a little bit more advanced than what Photoshop's been doing for years. I mean, I just I don't know. I'm probably more like the guy at your work that thinks AI is going to take over everything. I'm serious, yeah.
You got your tinfoil hat ready?
Yep.
Where was your new place? Where was your new place of work, Sparkle? Is it an AI startup?
Yeah. Actually, no. I'm going into the construction industry.
Ooh.
The company builds hospitals, and I figure they're going to keep building them things. So
they're going to need them. All the Ozempic people are taking.
You know, and there's something kind of rewarding about it as well, because you know, some of you guys know that I work for like a multinational food company that, you know, they do catering for sports events and corporate dining, corporate catering, airports, college campuses. I mean, you probably ate our food. It's a conglomeration of companies. They don't go to market as the main company name, but they're based out of the UK. But anyway, I was doing a food shoot 2 weeks ago. We're doing some new grab and go food that's going to be in airports and convenience stores and stuff like that. And it has 28-day shelf life. 28 days. And the food, like usually grab and go food, it'll be a window of clear film that you can see the food in, right? And I did some A/B testing. We realized the food looks so disgusting, especially when you get close to 28 days, that you know, it should be like that horror movie, 28 Days Later, right? And they put it in this film, they gas it with nitrogen, so that prevents the oxygen from oxidizing it longer, and it lasts longer. And there's so much sodium in the food We had like there's a sandwich called McRib here that has a kind of a cult following,
Yeah.
and it's a formed rib meat patty, and it looks like it has bones, but it's just the shape of it, and it's disgusting. And people get it at McDonald's. Well, it's actually made by Smithfield. We get the same product, the same meat patty, and we have some kind of bread that has been genetically modified. Um, and I asked what was modified about the bread, like what did they modify on this stuff? This goes into the tinfoil hat, right?
Yeah.
And,
Bread as an item does not have genetics.
No, the wheat.
But
the
yeah,
wheat
but the yeast and the wheat. Yeah.
Yeah.
the wheat has been genetically modified, and I was asking our rep, what about this stuff is modified, right? And she's like, well, it's the craziest thing. They spliced in DNA from a starfish, so it could survive like longer cold weather and stuff like that. And I mean, my mind as a creative guy just jumps to like, fuck, there's gonna be like tentacles growing out of my head or something. Like why? Like who even came up with that idea? It sounds all kinds of awful, or like the beginning of a B horror movie that I would like to watch tonight.
Yeah.
So we have this like starfish fucking DNA bread with some like disgusting meat riblet thing on it. And I'm looking at the nutritionals and I'm like, Jesus Christ, it has 150% your daily sodium. It has like 25 grams of saturated fat and like 700 calories. And I'm thinking like, this is awful. Like you wouldn't want to feed this to prisoners, So the chef that I'm working with at this, we have like a huge food shoot. I mean, I have a food stylist and photographer and all, lights, camera, action, all this shit. And I slide it on the table and I was like, look, if I put a gun to your head and I was like, you have to consume one of two things every single day, this fucking sandwich or a pack of cigs, what's going to kill you quicker for 30 years? And everybody unanimously was like, the fucking sandwich, you could probably get away with smoking for 30 years and, it's not going to be good for you. You might run the risk of getting cancer, but there's a lot of people that smoke for like
but you won't
longer
grow
than
tentacles.
That. It's not going to clog your heart, and you're not going to grow tentacles and shit. So anyway, it's going to feel a little bit rewarding and look like this is cheap food. This is like the food of last resort. You're pulling it out of some kind of like airport or something. You're in a hurry and that's what it is, or you're like a warehouse worker and it's in a vending machine or something like that. And I get it. It has to be affordable because people don't think like, hey, I'm gonna fish $10 into this machine. I want a sandwich for $2.50, so it has to be cheap. But anyway, it'll be nice to be working on projects that actually can help some people. So
Spinal says starfish bread. You can rip a lump off and it will run away and grow a new bread. Yeah, that's crazy. But is it lobsters that have a gene that makes them ageless? They don't actually grow older. I'm confusing the information there slightly, but
I don't know.
Like
sound
lobsters,
like you're going to tell us the Earth's flat next.
it's obviously it might be starfish. It might be. I might be getting confused, but basically they are ageless.
Great.
And researchers are looking into how we can, utilize that and live forever, which everybody wants, obviously.
Well, surely you just dry it, like make it into a powder, put it in pills, and that's
And
the
snort
way
it.
wellness works.
Smoke it.
Yes, so it's good that Sparkle's gone from the production of this horrific thing making everyone chronically ill to then the
working in a
building.
hospital.
Yeah, the building that's gonna.
Hey,
make
I
their-
sold you a
their-
sandwich 5 years ago. Yeah, you did,
Make their
motherfucker.
lives a little bit less shit. At
Now
great
take this
expense.
lump off me back. We shouldn't let this opportunity pass either without mentioning news I found pretty sad actually about Gene Hackman and his wife and his dog. You've all seen that, I guess.
Oh, not
What
today,
happened? How did they die?
They've not actually released it yet, but they're thinking probably carbon monoxide or something like that. But they've all been dead for like a couple of weeks or so, they think.
Jesus.
I know. Yeah.
I'm just
Happened
gonna-
to
Well,
an old
listen,
brother-in-law of mine. He had a cousin up in the Lake District, and they had a carbon monoxide issue with some utensil in the house, whatever it was. And one morning, none of them woke up. It was awful. Like
Now,
two
listen,
parents
just-
and two kids.
Just to tie up loose ends with the sandwich. Now, if Gene Hackman was eating clean, he was probably just like a pile of goo by the time they found him. If it had been a couple weeks. However,
No.
had he been eating the starfish sandwich, he would have been perfectly embalmed like Lennon in a glass tube.
Ironically, I saw a report that said they were basically mummified, which sounds a bit gruesome. And it took them a while to identify them, officially because of the condition of them. But they've been there a couple of weeks. How old? So you may have seen it in the news. How old do you think Gene Hackman is, if you don't know?
Oh, he was like in his 90s or something.
Yeah,
right?
95. I'm
Yeah.
like, fucking hell.
I mean,
That's
he might have looked
unbelievable.
mummified at 95 anyway.
Yeah, I know, yeah. It's not too much of a stretch, is it?
No.
Look like one of your sandwiches.
No, it did look flawless. That'd have been like that's the equivalent of someone like dying early, full of Botox and like lots of foundation still on them.
Oh, speaking of retro games, there is a small Game Boy camera sent in by Lord Neil. There's a couple above it random I left for you because you submitted them.
I did.
This was, or is, a YouTube video from Little Mod Shop. And he's saying what it could have been from the beginning. So he's literally dismantling like a Game Boy camera and doing lots of weird stuff that I have no intention of getting into myself, but he's made a better Game Boy camera. I mean, how
And
good
why
a
not?
camera do you need in your Game Boy? What do you think about it?
Wow. And I thought all of the millennials were into the fact that they liked the low quality of it, and that was the appeal these days. Yeah, the one I think the only one left from the above that's mine is so those who've listened to the top 10 know that we've talked about soft mods and PlayStation 2 hard drives and
Did Scott
free
mention
boot.
mod chips? I can't remember.
He may have mentioned mod chips. I can't remember. But yeah, this is another device that completely just makes the idea of spending time and money putting a mod chip in your PlayStation 2 completely pointless.
Is it a specific mod chip or is it all mod chips?
All the mod chips.
They're all a waste of time.
All the chips.
All the chips. That's what they meant when they said they killed the Chips Act, isn't it? Yeah, this is so there was a memory card called the MemCard Pro, and this was basically a memory card with a fancy OLED screen and an SD card slot, and so you could then do lots of things that you can imagine with that. So making infinite amounts of memory cards, backing up saves on your computer, like etc. But the Open PS2 loader, which runs games off hard drives and off a network, has had a patch and an update that allows it to run ISOs from the SD card slot in the memory card Pro. So it's about $50 for the memory card, and now you can just basically 1 terabyte SD card is gonna be a lot more reliable probably than, I don't know what the size of the hard drive is actually I ended up with in my PS2, maybe 300 gig.
I've got a
something, but-
320, I think, in mind, something like that.
Yeah, because you can't. They're all IDE drives. It's a ball ache to try and put a SATA drive in it. So, yeah, this could be the way going forward.
Yeah, one here from me, Magic the Gathering movie. So it's a link to a YouTube video of people talking about it. So apparently there is a live action Magic the Gathering movie, and they are hoping to spin off from that a whole sort of ecosystem where they will make TV series, and obviously, you know, the game's been around for decades. There's been lots of characters, lots of editions, you know, everything from Dragons to, you know, Fallout series. Final Fantasy is coming this year. So there's all these different, you know, areas and themes they can explore. So they're hoping to spin off some TV series of it as well. And I didn't submit it, but also separate to that, there is also supposed to be, I think this one's Netflix, an animated series based on Magic the Gathering as well. So I've been playing a bit of it recently. Pardon?
It's almost surprising they haven't done it before.
I think they've sort of tried, but they've never really got it off the ground for whatever reason. I don't know. It's always kind of the D&D side of things, and Wizards of the Coast, I think, own both at the moment. And it's always been kind of the D&D stuff that's been the more successful. And now they're trying to spin up the Magic side of things. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm really enjoying the game at the moment. So be interesting what they come up with. And it could be anything from, like I say, you know, dragons, you know, D&D style things to, you know, the Final Fantasy themes. There's Assassin's Creed sets. There's Lord of the Rings sets. Now, they're not going to remake, you know, Lord of the Rings or anything like that. But there are lots of different themes and sort of parallel universes where Magic the Gathering takes place, shall we say. So they could do lots of different things with it. And that reminded me of something else I was going to say. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. So I've seen some things recently about James Bond. I'm a big James Bond fan. Amazon have kind of bought the rights to it. And there's been people kind of discussing, you know, what they might do with James Bond. And, you know, there was discussion. Yeah. There was a discussion where, you know, well, look at what Disney's done with Star Wars. You know, they've made a load of films and a load of spin-off TV shows. And completely killed Star Wars. Apart from the odd gem, you know, Andor, the Mandalorian, that kind of thing.
Well, you know, if you throw enough shit, at a dartboard, some of it sticks.
Yeah, and they're discussing, like, well, who could be the next James Bond? Like, submitting, you know, black actors for it and what have you. Not a racist view, but James Bond is not a black guy. He's a Scottish guy. He's about 40-odd years old, and he's a naval commander. That's who James Bond is. If you want to make a spy show with a black guy as the central character, have at it. I might watch it. Might be very good, but it ain't James Bond. So I love the Bond films. They are fantastic. The recent batch with Daniel Craig did something the others didn't do, and that's an aspect of it I don't like. Like an original James Bond film, up until Daniel Craig, you go into the film, it starts off, you know, there's some guy trying to take over the world, James Bond comes, saves the world, you know, the film ends, that's it, end of that villain, or end of that story. But the Daniel Craig one's kind of spun off, and, you know, he has these relationships, and one film kind of follows on the story arc from another. That's not James Bond. James Bond comes in, saves the day, and fucks off. That's what he does. That's what I want him to do. That is James Bond. You want to make other spy stuff, have at it, but don't fuck around with James Bond, please.
Yeah, you need someone in a volcano or mountain layer with like a space laser.
Yeah, exactly.
And the whole point is to foil their plan to do whatever they're doing to hold the world to ransom, and then, you know, move on to next one with new villain, who's making a space laser on the moon this time.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
That's what it is.
That's what
Not
James Bond
like,
is.
yeah, it's like, oh, this organized, this, you know, underground criminal organization that's doing all this shit, and yeah, I know what you've said is exactly sort of why I struggled with the Daniel Craig ones.
Yeah.
I mean, is there kind of like a national sense of pride around James Bond as well?
There is for me, but I'm a massive fan of the franchise. I don't think there's much national pride in anything at the moment because we're in a real shit state. And not to get political, but I tell you what, I've been laughing my head off this afternoon. I'm a big fan of Trump. I don't agree with everything he does. I don't like everything he does. I think he's wrong on some things. But the way it, like, our press are sort of, oh, Starmer's gone this and demanded this. Trump absolutely had Starmer where he wanted him. So you can find the clip. It's out there. Like, Starmer's talking about Canada, and Trump just at one point says, that's enough. And Starmer just stops talking straight away. Just, like, literally stops mid-sentence because Trump said, that's enough. And there's another bit where Vance is having a go at him about freedom of speech over here. And he starts talking up, and then again, Trump just shuts him up. And then there's another bit where Starmer's like trying to big himself. Oh yeah, we have a great relationship. We've had a great meeting. We've always got each other's backs. And then Trump looks at him and says, "Can you take on Russia by yourself?" And he's like, it's almost like, "Be quiet, dickhead. The adults are talking here," you know. And then about maybe an hour before we started, there was a video landed of Zelensky in the Oval Office, and J.D. Vance rips into him. Zelensky starts arguing back, and then Trump fires in, and they're all arguing. And then the upshot of that was Trump's thrown him out of the White House and said he can come back when he's ready to talk peace. Like, he's shown a great amount of disrespect to the White House, to the Oval Office, and to this country, and they've thrown him out, literally thrown him out of the White House. Those videos are out there. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of Trump at the moment. Don't like everything he does. I think his vision of certain things is a little warped, but he's what America needs right now. And he put Starmer in his place. Go and look for those videos. They're pretty funny. Spinal, who is in the UK, says he's never seen a Bond film. I don't think you can call yourself British. I think you need to leave if you've never seen a Bond film. Just go. Just go.
There's definitely a generation's, like, my father-in-law. He's not interested, but then he's pretty old. But then certainly a lot of his generation, and then like from there, like through you, Mike, and then it sort of stops about me. I think where people were into the books and into those classic run of films.
Yeah.
And I think probably, since your GoldenEye onwards, people just they've not captured the audience in the same way where they're that interested in it as a franchise in the same way.
No, I think Pierce Brosnan was a great Bond, and I followed Bond quite a lot, and they wanted him when. They wanted him before he did it, before Dalton, I think, but he was doing Remington Steele, and he had those commitments and couldn't do it. So when he was freed up from that, he came in. I thought his films were okay. They weren't the best written, weren't the best scripts, but I thought he was a good Bond. He was sleazy, and all the things that Bond should do. Misogynist, sexist, whatever you want to call it. I do like the Daniel Craig films as films, but I don't like the way that they've sort of carried on, the Bond sort of arc through them.
They're decent enough as an action franchise, but yeah, they're not true to sort of Bond. And it's the same problem I had with modern Doctor Who, and like loads of people I know and around me in my social circles are all like, "Oh yeah, it's great. We love the new Doctor Who," and I'm like, I can't do it. Like,
isn't it a female now or something?
They've gone on from a female. It's now a black homosexual.
Oh,
irrespective of all that, like,
that's an upgrade.
Come on, keep
I mean,
up.
I like David Tennant and Christopher Ecclestone's like acting and stuff, but it's just like the way they put them together. It's just not
Doctor Who.
It's not Doctor Who.
No. And the thing they lost with Doctor Who, I just want to mention Spinal's comment before I do Doctor Who. I'm on my soapbox now. That's it. Spinal says, "Isn't James Bond based on a couple of real people?" Well, Ian Fleming was in the Royal Navy. I can't remember if he was a commander in the Royal Navy, but he sort of based it loosely on himself, but obviously expanded. He wasn't claiming to be this and that, but that's where he got the idea. He was in the Royal Navy. Doctor Who was... So the beauty of Doctor Who in 70s, 80s, probably a little bit beyond, it was a 25-minute show. Each story arc was probably 4 episodes. Some of them were 6. at the end of each 25-minute episode, there was a cliffhanger, like the old Flash Gordons, you know, or the old Western shows, Lone Ranger, where the wagon wheels are going over the edge of the cliff, and then you tune in next week to see what happens, kind of thing. That was what Doctor Who was. There was a cliffhanger at the end of each 25-minute episode, and then at the end, you know, the Doctor saves the world and what have you. Separate story, moves on. When it came back with Eccleston and beyond, they were now 50-minute episodes. Some of them carried over to 2, but they were a 50-minute show. And it was, all the world's going to shit, everything's happening, it's all going to, there's no possible way out of this, the world's going to end, there's no way out of it. Oh, wait, I've got a sonic screwdriver. I'll fix it. I'll just press this button, everything's fixed. And that was it. And then on top of that, they threw in all the Billie Piper stuff and her boyfriend and her mum and the Doctor going to visit them in her flat. You don't need all that shit. The TARDIS, a planet, a story. That's all you need. And it was all the extra shit they threw in. It's, yeah. I watched the Christopher Eccleston. I can watch those. They're okay. I do like him. He's from Salford, which is where I currently live. Well, just outside. I come under the borough of Salford. Tennant, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm undecided. I need to try them again. I watched some of them at the time, and I thought, this is not Doctor Who. I could maybe go back and try them again, and I do plan on doing, but that's not what Doctor Who was.
Yeah, it wasn't, you know, like, we had a station here when I was growing up, PBS. It was broadcast. It was like our free TV, you know. I think it's like partially government funded or something like that. And I had a TV in my room, and we didn't have cable or anything, so I only had a handful of channels at the time. PBS was one of them, and I'd turn it on late at night, and it was like they would play Doctor Who on there sometimes, and same with Red Dwarf.
Oh, yeah.
And they were just
Red
always
Dwarf's
like
good.
weird like British shit, and I never got it, so I don't know.
Yeah, Red Dwarf is fantastic. If you get into that sense of humour, it's brilliant. Great show.
Yeah.
It went on a long time and then came back. It sort of like a lot of shows that run for a long time, they kind of fall off a little bit, but then it did come back and get really good. But yeah, Red Dwarf's a great show. Spinal Cord says he didn't mind any of the actors, speaking of Doctor Who, but you get the sense that the writers didn't have any confidence in some of them. The guy who writes it at the moment, Russell T Davies, he's the man behind, I suspect he's on the other bus, but he's the man behind the drive towards the female doctors, the gay aspect, the woke aspect of Doctor Who, and that's where all that's coming from. And he did write some of the older ones, the original ones, but he also wrote shows like Queer as Folk and things like that. So that's where that kind of input is coming into Doctor Who and kind of ruining it. For me, anyway. The kids might love it. Back to retro game news.
It's something else the kids might love. Probably not, actually. But, so yeah, Lord Neil sent in he says it's a SNES DC video. But interestingly, it's actually about the SNES CD, not the DC.
All right.
It's Did You Know Gaming. It's 42-minute. Sounds like quite an very in-depth sort of documentary chronicling sort of, I think, the rise of the Super Nintendo CD-ROM as a format, what's, Nintendo were doing, why they decided to make the deals they did. Obviously, we know they went with Sony, and where that all ended up, which, as we know, isn't in the market, in the hand of consumers. So
something that could be in the hand of consumers, submitted by Dave Lanke, and I think someone else, Chris down there, Chris Lethco, I think it is, submitted this as well. It's kind of a Kindle-like device, a hybrid e-reader, but it's a game console designed to play text adventures. It's still sort of a concept. It's not a finished product yet. Looks interesting. It's basically a Kindle, couple of buttons on the front. I'm not sure how you're going to interact with a text adventure. There's no keyboard or anything, but I'm guessing you'll be given options on screen and select them with the buttons. But It looks interesting. I do love, a text adventure. Haven't played too many recently, but I wonder if they could revive that format. We've got a top 10 on our list for planning, and one of them is abandoned game formats. It's a top 10 abandoned game formats, and one of my picks for that is the text adventure. I just wonder if they could actually bring it back with something like this.
Someone did. There was a game I played 2 or 3 years ago, and it wasn't so much a text adventure. It was kind of it was more of a strategy, like kingdom strategy, sort of civilization thing. You're a king. You're assigning, what your guards are doing and what people, what your farmers are doing and everything, and what your taxes are, and sort of making them go out and do things. But it was all presented in ASCII, and it was, you had like 1 to 7 options, to pitch. You typed 1 to 7 and press enter, and that was, the whole interaction was just type a number and press enter. So it was really nice to sort of play that sort of thing, see that sort of thing again. This concept, so obviously, from what I gather from this, it's a bespoke interactive fiction format. So it's you're not gonna be running Zork on it or anything. It's specifically designed so that you are giving players the a series of actions or options to choose from, and then the story plays out accordingly. So it's kind of choose your own adventure. But my second e-reader was an Android. It's basically an Android tablet. Before, these days that's quite common for e-readers to just be running full Android, but this was sort of very old school and early. Unfortunately, the screen's got a big crack. Well, not crack, but like half of it doesn't work. But I actually used to play quite a lot of text adventures on there, and that worked, perfectly well, because it's just e-ink. You're just reading, and then you just need the on-screen keyboard's enough to type north and press enter, or look north, or go north, or pick up sword. So that worked quite well. So this would be interesting, but like I said, the fact that it's kind of maybe bespoke games less interesting. If someone just brought someone out there at SoCal, there are some molds available in a factory for the keyboard Kindle. Okay, just need to buy the keyboard Kindle. Put Android in it, or I guess it could just be Linux, because you could just boot straight into a text adventure emulator, parser emulator. You can have put some free files on there, but obviously people can sideload their own.
Can you put cartridges in it?
Well, I suppose an SD card full of. But then what's the point of doing it on an SD card? How many text adventures can you fit on an SD card? Yeah. But so that would be quite cool. I always wanted to if there was a good jailbreak for the keyboard Kindle. When my girlfriend at the time had one, I was like, this would be absolutely fucking cool for just sitting and playing text adventures on. But other handheld things that I don't think I did send in the end, but post in our Discord today about the Karateka Gold Master series making of documentary thing that came out on the Switch. All the Gold Master series stuff is all getting physical versions, and the Tetris one has got a special edition that comes with a handheld with, unfortunately, just I think Famicom NES Tetris and SNES Bombliss and Tetris. Might be even Famicom Bombliss and Tetris, which seems like not a lot of Tetris games to put onto a handheld that would be, you can get a Chinese handheld for like $20, and they're making a profit on that. So if you're like buying them wholesale,
you can get one for $5 when you fill up with diesel.
Well, yeah, it'd be like $2 for this handheld that would be able to play any like NES, or up to probably PlayStation. You could fill that with a lot of Tetris games to give people. But Yeah, so I thought about sending it to you separately because I was like, you like Tetris, and here's a handover. I was like, but they're going to want like hundreds of pounds for just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to love my keyboard Kindle. It's up there on the shelf. I can't let it go, but it doesn't really work anymore. Like, you press the menu button and nothing happens. I think that button's broken, but that was the best device I'd bought up until that point. It was fantastic. I loved it.
Well, you might be able to get something else that's fantastic.
Go on.
Speaking of e-readers, there's a unique e-reader
That's the one we've just done.
Yeah, shit.
I'll give you some other good news, though, and you can take this to the bank. Microsoft say, I can't see this. Oh, there it is. Sent by David Gyrick. Microsoft say your digital purchases are safe. So don't worry, Microsoft have said it. That's fine. Phil Spencer, the Xbox boss, reassures Xbox fans their digital libraries are safe and that he respects people who voice their concerns about Xbox's future. So don't worry, buy all the online games, all the digital games you want. Microsoft have got your back. Don't worry.
Got one from Peter Gibbs that says, "I'm human. I'm not an animal."
I don't believe him.
That's pretty good to know.
So the reason behind that, for a while, because I was getting a lot of spam to the news and to my RGR account, and I put some domains as a blacklist, and for some reason it picked up Gmail. So I think if you emailed us for a while, it emailed you back and said, make sure you're real, send another email and we'll let you through. I've since disabled that, but I think Peter got caught up in the middle of all that process, so that's the reason he's saying he's human, but I still have my doubts.
Oh, yeah, because, I forgot that the email started doing confirmation stuff, because I'm pretty sure the first thing I submitted, I eventually got round to bothering to reply or do the link, and then I sent another one in a bit later because it's like, oh, you've been whitelisted now, and I'm like, oh, excellent, brilliant. Submit another news story, and 2 weeks later, it's like, you need to confirm that you're a person. I was like, what? No, I don't, surely.
Yeah, so that should be turned off now. If it happens to you, let me know, and I'll go back and check the settings again. But I think it's right now.
All right.
How about this one? The Dreamcast is getting cloud save support.
What?
Yeah. Sega Dreamcast may be over 25 years old at this point, but it's still full of surprises thanks to the passionate modding community, which has grown up around it. So it looks like this community has found a way of doing some cloud games. Let's see. They've concocted memes of saving your VMU data in the cloud. So it looks like it will be on parity level with modern day systems like the Switch, Xbox, and PS5. It's kind of cool. Look at that. You can get your virtual VMU open source self-hosted cloud saves and upload them to a Dreamcast web browser. Okay. Pretty interesting. I mean, I'm not part of this community, but man, like those 50 of you guys that are doing this hardcore. Let's see, this is by Robert Dale Smith.
There's only 50 guys, but don't fuck with those 50 guys.
Yeah, dude. I don't know. I'm gonna. You know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna reach out to this guy and see if we can't get one of these guys on the show because I'm curious. Like, he has all kinds of crazy stuff on his Twitter feed and everything. I mean, he's really, really into this Dreamcast shit. He's like modded controllers with like a golden frog and shit on here.
There's a guy at the museum has done something to his Dreamcast or bought something for his Dreamcast. Random will know more about this than I do. But he's loading games through, is it the serial port from an SD card? But like the device he's bought is really fussy about SD cards. Like he's got a 2 gig one that will work, and people are saying, oh, well, buy this Samsung, 128 or whatever, that works. And he's bought one and it doesn't, and it's just... it's really awkward and really slow, and I'm like, just get an optical drive replacement, dude.
Yeah, at this point, yeah, get an ODE. As I've not actually heard about these. So yeah, Dreamshell and SD adapters.
Look at the link that I put in chat. The same fella modded a Fisher Price controller with a foot pedal to play.
Oh, is that the Outroom
Gimpy
one?
Bomber. That's what
Oh,
you
no.
play with a foot pedal. Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
Gimpy Bomber. All right, yeah.
You remember that Gimpy Bomber with a foot
I
pedal?
do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the
Every time
Dream
you-
Shell is really picky about what SD cards it supports.
It sounds like the serial port's not really fast enough to
No.
do it reliably, which is probably why. Yeah, I mean, well, there's better ways, isn't there, with Dreamcast? I think.
Yeah.
Um,
Burning CDRs.
well, yeah, but well, it's going to start getting difficult to find CDRs.
It doesn't. It won't read because he tried rewritables. It doesn't like those.
No,
So he
no,
had
most
to,
stuff won't.
yeah, he had to try CDRs. But yeah.
Yeah, I always just burn to CDR.
Yeah. All by originals, but he's picked up a few originals off eBay. But Dreamcast games are getting up there now. Some of them are pretty expensive, and a lot of the cases are fucked.
Well, yeah, the PAL cases, yeah,
Yeah.
just fucking disintegrate, don't they?
Yeah.
You know what though? Oddly enough, Master System still seems like a pretty affordable system to collect.
Yeah, there's always been a couple of games that were up there. Yeah, well, I haven't looked recently, but yeah, I always used to be able to pick up Master System stuff quite cheap.
No,
There
but I
wasn't so
mean, I
much
think,
wanted to. But...
I mean, you could get a box system for like $100 in some cases in decent shape. Like I think for as old as it is in like, you know, the games
The one
are
or
not
the
that,
two.
Yeah,
Did you get
Well, that's-
Did you get both over there?
the Master System.
Yeah, there's a 1 and a 2.
No, I think we only had the one.
Different form factors. The 1 is like quite wide, long and thin, and the 2 is a lot stubbier.
Yeah, the one was like what the 80s thought the 90s technology was going to look like, and then the second one is
Random's
like
got
what
no
the
head
90s
on his
technology
camera.
actually looked like. It's just it's got that weird rotating flippy lunchbox lid to the cartridge cover and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird one, that one.
Running out of items. What have we got? Random sent one about limited run games. He may know more about that than me. I did read it, but I'll let him do it. And David Gyrick sent one in. The Command & Conquer source code has been released. It's on GitHub. Have at it. Make a Command & Conquer game with our faces in it. And sell it for millions.
And we'll do lots of any voice work you want doing for it. Just let us know. We'll record stuff.
Yeah. I'll do
What
the
is it?
opening scene. Command and Conquer. There you go. You can use that. That's public domain. You can use that.
So it's an interesting thought, like because you could reskin it in some way, so it's not just planetary takeover. But what would we be doing? It'd be like you could have like two expos warring, or like RGR versus Retronauts. or-
Which podcast needs the most Kickstarters to continue production? I thought
Brotherhood
I
of
sent
Mod
this.
Chips versus the Flashcard Federation.
Mod chips. I'm going to have to do some clips of Schreiber saying mod chips. I thought I'd submitted this one. I clearly didn't. But Skype is closing down in May. We know it's owned now by Microsoft and has been for a number of years. And they are pushing you to Teams. So you can apparently log into Teams for free with your existing Skype account. I don't know why you'd want to, because I think Teams is an awful product, but they are killing Skype. And it's took them a lot longer than I thought it would, to be honest. I thought it would have gone years ago. We don't use it anymore. Haven't used it for a number of years. But, yeah, it is going.
Man, at the time,
It was awesome. Everyone used it.
Oh yeah.
yeah, like that was great, man. How long? When did Skype first come out? Like it had to be over 20 years ago.
Ooh, good question. Let's have a look.
Yeah.
Ask the
While you-
AI. When?
While you're looking, I'll say hopefully this will stop it fucking popping up on my computer every time that Windows does an update, and then it's like, oh, you want to use the Skype app, don't you? No, I fucking don't.
And improving
Stop.
your experience. 2003.
Okay. Hey,
Wow.
I want to read off a list that I have, and I'll send you. It's from Envision Community UK. I'll put this in the chat so you have the link to the show.
List of
While
animals
you're
you
doing that,
can put in a
I'll quickly-
sandwich.
Yeah.
Do the one that Mike mentioned I'd sent in. So this was limited run games. They did some new NES game releases. Rugrats Adventure in Gameland and P.O. Pal. Obviously, you know, they were released on NES to be played on a NES, but it turns out, I don't think we probably did mention it. So the NES lockout chip, there was some unlicensed games that were engineered to deliver enough voltage to basically burn out that chip and blow it out, so that you could not have to worry about licensed games or not anymore on your NES. This sounds like it's kind of possibly something similar along those lines, where they've something in the cartridge, the voltage regulation's bad, and there's a chance it can feed the wrong voltage back into the NES and break it. So that would no doubt upset a lot of people, as NESs are starting to get quite old now. If you've bought your nice shiny, paid whatever money you did for your nice shiny brand new run of a game, for it to then fry your NES. So yeah, well, Nintendo were always right. You've got to always look for the seal of quality, otherwise it could damage your system. So
You think I want to read this list of most valuable retro games in the UK, if that's all right.
That's fine by me.
yeah, I mean,
Okay, number 10, Mega Man X3 on the Super NES. Number 9, Primal Rage on the 32X. Number 8, Flagman Silver Series on the Game & Watch. Tied for 8 is Balloon Fight Crystal Screen Series on the Game & Watch. Number 7 is Power Drive on the Game Gear. Number 6, Super Mario Brothers Special Series on the Game Watch. Number 5, Cindy's Fashion World on the PlayStation 1.
What the hell? How much is that? Does it give prices?
Yeah. I put the link in the chat so you have
Okay.
it for the show notes. It's 897 pounds.
Wow.
Number 4, Dark Side on the 32X. Tied for 4 is Egg Widescreen Edition Series on the Game & Watch. Number 3, Mega Man X2 on the Super NES. I'm sorry. Number 2 is Mario the Juggler Widescreen Series on the Game & Watch. And number 1 is T-Mech on the 32X.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a cheat, including Game and Watches. You know, I was thinking more, games, but there's a couple of those I knew were expensive, but I was expecting to hear like Resident Evil 2 on the N64 or something. I know that's expensive. Or Twilight Princess on... Which one is it random? The Wii or the GameCube that's expensive? Is it Twilight Princess? One of the Zeldas, isn't it? You remember we saw it at Expo, it was expensive? Hello,
versions
Ren.
of that are quite expensive. I've come across, which I've never really. Well, it's a good game. I like it, and it's surprising that the different ports are actually quite different from each other often. But I think it just wasn't made in particularly big numbers. But then people have been like, "Well, this is quite a good game. I like rallying, especially if you're UK centric." So yeah, it's interesting. The Mega Mans, I know sort of late on as a SNES owner, things like that weren't really being released in great numbers here. Wasn't a great deal of interest in it, but obviously Mega Man as a series, as time goes on, people are like, oh well, I'd want to play that now, or I need my entire collection, and then find out the PAL versions are quite rare and expensive.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always like, I don't know. I look on eBay every once in a while, and it seems like there's always this dip where games come out, they're really expensive, right? And a few months later, the prices drop, and then it seems like there's another tier where then they just like fall off a cliff for a while until people start kind of collecting them, and then they slowly rise up again over time. Like right now, if you started collecting PlayStation 3 games, I mean, there's people selling lots of like 100 games on eBay. You get a lot of 100 games for like $130 and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, over the last couple of years, I've been sort of snapping up a lot of PS3 stuff, sort of filling in some of that collection. Just because it's, like I say, you pick stuff up for like £1, and there's a lot of like.
How much of that stuff can you actually play on disc though? Does it not say, "Oh, there's an update"?
Oh, yeah. No, I don't think so.
It mostly all play, and like a lot of the stuff anyway is like single player stuff.
Right.
I mean, theoretically, everything should, the single player mode on everything, even today, should work without a patch. Now, we know full well that things like Cyberpunk, the single player, it kind of technically did work, but it's not a fun way to play that game, without a patch. But the PlayStation 3 and 360 era is fairly solid.
I wonder, because they printed Skyrim for so long, I wonder if there was like later versions of the pressing that were updated versions of the
They
game.
tend to do that with like Game of the Year edition, and things
Platinum
like that.
edition.
Yeah, and so, or if they do like a completely new SKU like classics or that kind of thing, they will roll patches into it.
So that's good to know. Like if you want to start collecting PlayStation 3, like, hey, Skyrim, you could probably pick it up for a couple bucks, and it's a great game, and it's you still get the full experience, and the graphics aren't bad on PlayStation 3, but yeah, you'd want to get that Game of the Year edition or something.
How old is Skyrim?
Oh man,
10 years?
Oh, it's over
longer
10.
than that.
I was just wondering, like, how it compares to, retro titles. Obviously, it's not retro, but
Well, it's getting there.
no,
Crazy.
it's not.
Let's see.
2011.
Not in my lifetime. 2011.
Dude.
15 years old, nearly.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So
to
when
think about.
okay, 15 years, let's say. So when we started this podcast in 2009, that would have been like a game from 94. So you're talking like
That would have
Sega
end of
Rally
SNES.
Arcade era. That one, when was that? Was that 93? Sega Rally, something like that. But you're talking that kind of arcade era, aren't you?
no, wait, 94. Was that the sort of mid SNES start of almost getting into PlayStation,
Yeah, yeah.
isn't it?
So just before the PS1. Wow.
Yeah.
So in 15 years, it'll be retro.
I think it'll be sooner than that. Well, and it seems like the pace of the consoles have slowed down though. Like, like the Switch has been out for a long time at this point.
But also, like, dude, when we start including PS3 games in this podcast, I'm not picking any. I fucking hated my PS3. Seriously hated it. I used my PS3 to watch Formula One with the Sky Go app and to play Worms Online with Willie Culver and Scott. That was about it. I did buy a few games. I did like Sniper Elite 2 and maybe one of the Gran Turismos, but that was about it. Every time I turned the fucker on, it said, "Oh, you got to update." It's like, no, fuck it. I'll go away and do something else. I hated it. I will never pick a PS3 game on this podcast.
Red Dead Redemption was good. Uncharted 2 from 2009. That's getting up there. Fallout 3 from 2008. That was good. God of War games were good. Last of Us came out on that. Grand Theft 5, that was good. There's some solid titles.
There's
So, in chat there, let's have a look. Glenn Minette says, it would be interesting to look at what were the top 10 games the day this podcast started. So I've just Googled February 2009 top 10 game sales by, that's by platform. Let's see if there's one that has...
It's 2009 when you started the show?
Yeah, Feb 2009. Let's see if we can find a list from that month. So I can't claim validity for the accuracy of this list. But number 1, Uncharted 2, Among Thieves. Does that sound right? Batman Arkham Asylum at number 2. It's in reverse order. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 in 3. Assassin's Creed 2 in 4. GTA Episodes from Liberty City in 5. Minecraft in 6. Left 4 Dead 2 in 7. New Super Mario Brothers on the Wii in 8. Street Fighter 4 in 9. And Bayonetta in 10. Does that sound right? Seems legit, doesn't it?
Those games still seem like pretty modern for how long the show's been around.
Yeah. Well, 16 years this month. 15 years, depending how you count it. It's, yeah. Crazy.
Well, Bayonetta is a fantastic game.
Not played it.
I think you like just tugging one out. Too.
Yeah. Stroking one out.
Well, I mean, obviously, but I like the game as well.
So there you go, Glenn Minette. That was the top 10 from that year. Pretty shitty top 10, if you ask me. What top 10 did we do that year? That's more interesting. Let's have a look at that.
What was the first top 10 you did?
Oh, was it arcade ports? Let's have a look.
I mean,
Who was like the Mexican fella? The Mexican fella that was part of your show?
So he wasn't on the show, but he did the editing on the first few and helped us out with the first few. Flair, he was involved with Retro Gaming Radio as well. Fernando Garcia.
Arcade ports, game soundtracks, arcade cabs, other coin op, adult themed games, sports games, pinball innovations. How the fuck did you do sports games?
I don't know. Well, SoCal was a big fan.
Well, yeah, SoCal, that was it. Like, what the fuck?
Well, I played a lot back then, summer games and that kind of thing, but yeah, I don't know how that was the first 6.
How did Madden get to number 1?
Did it? Wow.
Yeah. What the fuck were you boys doing?
What were we doing then?
What were you doing? I could see,
Scott probably just didn't give a shit. He didn't care because he doesn't like sports ball. And he knew that Madden was like recognizable.
Important. Yeah.
Yeah. And SoCal likes football, so he was probably pushing hard for it.
Go Huskers.
I don't think Modern Scott would put Madden there. When you've got
Modern Scott wouldn't do sports games.
Well, but if he had to,
he would vote them all out.
Yeah. Mod chips.
What's your favorite sports game? Mod chips, all of them.
Which mod chip? All of them. Glenn Minette says, and we're just bullshitting now. We're done. No news items left. We're just bullshitting. Glenn Minette says, I miss it came from MAME and SoCal going around the markets bargaining for games. Don't we all? But when you take into account everything else that came with SoCal, you miss them less. But no, he did do some good segments.
There's like a giant Mexican swap meet not too far from me. Maybe
you
I
should
should go there sometime.
Get some sunglasses with a camera in and record yourself going around.
Dude, it's weird though. Like they sell like I don't know. I think these people buy like containers worth of shit from China.
Yeah.
It's not like the old school flea markets that I used to go to growing up. Like it's like new like knockoff Nike clothes and shit like that. And like there's all these like Hispanic women that sell like lingerie and shit. Like I couldn't imagine like shopping for lingerie at the swap meet. Like it's just weird, you know.
Who's buying lingerie at a swap meet?
Apparently a lot of people.
No.
So I'm gonna go
No.
take pictures now because there's massive amounts
Dude,
of like
you this
lingerie
weekend,
Dildo. One
this
dildo, lightly
weekend,
used.
You go to a swap meet and take pictures of a vendor selling lingerie
I
and
would-
WhatsApp it to me.
I'm gonna do it.
Very good price. Hey, very good
I'm
price.
gonna buy some and wrap it around a bottle of old granddad and ship it to you.
There you go. Hey,
I
you
was
lucky underwear, eh?
Listen, so there's this thing here called VistaAuctions.com, and it's some enterprising guy from the Ukraine that came over here, and
It's Ukraine, not the Ukraine.
yeah, came over, and so I guess when you buy shit from like Walmart or Amazon, most of the time they don't even take it back. Like it just goes into like a giant shipping container, and they fill that fucker up, and then they sell it to like somebody will buy the container and just be like, yeah, just whatever. And then it's like all the random shit that's in there. And I bought my kid like she got some kind of giant volleyball net thing, and it was like they're like $250 new. I got it for like $22. She got some kind of like thing for serving into, and it bounces the ball back. I bought a brand new weed whacker. Somebody had taken the head off of it, and I just bought a new head for $9. Like I got the weed whacker for $9, and I got a universal head new at the hardware store for $9. So I have a brand new like $250 weed whacker basically now. So like I just go through there, and like I've been finding like some weird shit, and it's way better than a swap meet. But I mean, I got like a massager and like all kinds of things, but I was scrolling through and there was this-
Massager. For external use only.
yeah. But there was
Just put a condom on it, dude. You'll be fine.
and like most of it, like they'll show a picture of like the item, like they'll just snipe it from like scrape it from like Amazon for whatever the item is, and it'll be like dog bed, and they'll show you the dog bed, and then they show you a picture of it like open or the box, so like they kind of show you what the product you're gonna get looks like and everything along with it. And I was scrolling through earlier, and it was a standing adult toilet, so it was like for like infirmed or like disabled people. It was like a toilet you put like next to your bed, and it had like rails and shit on it and everything. And it said slightly used.
Oh.
And the picture, like the picture of the actual
Got
product,
a
they
shit
said
stain on it.
it was unavailable. So I'm just like, man, somebody like they obviously dumped in that thing. Like, who would buy that?
Man.
It was only $1,
That's
but I
gotta-
couldn't bring myself
That's
to bid
gotta
on
be
it.
the worst thing anyone's ever bought secondhand. Jesus. Slightly used.
Comes with a free turd. You could upgrade it with mod chips.
All the chips, all the mod chips. Oh man.
Right.
Okay, I think we're done, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to
Yep.
get it before my throat.
You can all go and
disintegrates.
watch Trump throw Zelensky out of the White House and make Keir Starmer his bitch now. So, yes, thank you for everyone who joined us live. Some stayed right through, some joined us early and left, some joined late and stayed, as it always happens. I was there at the beginning, and I'm still here at the end. That's dedication for you. So we will see you and speak to you next month. Show should be out maybe tomorrow. Depends if I get the hardware flashback. Depends how quickly I go through this shit and take out the awkward pauses. And yes, we shall see you again next month. Look after yourselves. Stay safe, everybody. Stay safe. haven't said that for a while. Not that I ever said it anyway. Say goodnight, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.